Hi, this is Brass Check, and I'd like to talk about a remarkable book we received in the mail from a subscriber and supporter. And if anybody is ever motivated to send me a book, I will at least skim it. Can't promise that I'll read it, and I can't promise that I'll promote it, but I will definitely take an intelligent look at it. This book, I feel I have to stop the world and tell you about because it's really good. It doesn't appear that it's currently in print. You can get used copies, and I also urge you to learn more about the author, Don Fotheringham. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And the organization that he's involved with is the Freedom First Society, and you can find that online, freedomfirstsociety.org. And the book is called The President Makers, How Billionaires Control U.S. and Foreign Policy. And I'm looking for the date that it came out, 2014. You know, titling a book is always a tricky thing. This book covers that topic very well, but it covers a much, much, much broader range of subjects. In fact, I'd say, in terms of putting it all between the covers of one book, this is the most comprehensive treatment of the degeneracy of the American economic political scene since the rise of the robber barons, the Andrew Carnegies and the J.P. Morgans. And the book takes it all the way through our, current era. I mean, obviously he can't be writing about what's going on today, but I see in the latter pages plenty of stuff about 9/11. The book is so rich and so deep and so fantastic, but I'll just give an example of one thing that I should have known and did not know and was educated about this book. I've been aware through the writings of Upton Sinclair, the author of the book The Brass Check, which came out in 1919, sold 300,000 copies plus, and is today one of the most censored books on earth. Good luck. You can find it now, but it used to be very difficult. Anyway, that book is a compendium of all the frauds that the so-called news industry was engaged in during his time. And over 100 years later, it remains the absolute best book on the subject of news media fraud ever written. Nobody's gotten even close to Upton Sinclair, which is, I'm sure, why that book is so heavily suppressed. But anyway, just one of the chapters in this book, and this book has 37 of them, each of them fascinating. Chapter 5 is called An Early Grip on the News, and it talks about how the cartel of crooks, billionaire crooks, methodically went about buying and corrupting every single aspect of the news media. And there's just a lot of detail here that I've never seen anywhere else, and I can guarantee it is not taught in journalism school. So if you want an exceedingly good read, if you want to see something that puts the entire flow of history from the time we first had these massive concentrations of wealth in this country and how those concentrations of wealth were focused on a single proposition. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in this book, but the proposition is very simple. The people that have super controlled wealth in this country are all part of one big club. And as George Carlin said, you ain't in it. And as this book demonstrates, you are being bamboozled at every step. And the purpose of all these endless frauds is to strip you of your freedom and your wealth. And you may say, well, I'm not rich. Well, you have something, you have the ability to feed yourself and house yourself. They'd like to strip that of you as well. And they'd like to make you 100% dependent on them and, in short, reduce you to slavery status. If I were to write a book, I would start much earlier, but I'm not criticizing this book in any way. And I would point out that in its original conception, the colonization of the Americas was a twofold operation carried out by corrupt governments, the corrupt government of Spain and the corrupt government of England. And they had two very simple goals. They wanted to steal everything that was not nailed down. The Spanish were extremely good at that. And they wanted to convert the New World into a values-free forced labor camp. Now, it's most obvious with the Africans who were kidnapped and terrorized and brought over and put under captivity and forced through violence to provide free labor. And when that wasn't enough, they were forced to provide their own children. But they were not the only people abused by this system, but they clearly are part of the story. So great people in this country, great freedom fighters of all kinds. I think if you study history, I'm kind of going off the tangent here a little bit. If you really study the history, you're going to see that some of the original freedom fighters were Native Americans and kidnapped Africans, not infrequently working together. Then we had our great founding fathers who put it all on the line to free us from tyrannical situation in which we were being mistreated and robbed, basically, of not just freedoms, but of economic opportunity. We had a golden period after that, not perfect, but had much to recommend it. And then around the Civil War, post-Civil War, and the great concentrations of wealth that took place after that, we had a reversion and a steady degeneracy, there's no other way to call it, guided from wealthy people and the unethical people who work for them. Again, the intention is really simple, to take away any freedoms you have. That includes freedom of access to information, freedom of thought. Our educational system has been corrupted, as this book documents. Our news media system, of course, is corrupted, which I've already referred to. And every politician of note that we see is firmly in the pockets of these people. So this book is, I'm really not doing it justice. To do it justice would require really a multi-hour show. But I just want to put this on your radar screen. This is a exceedingly well-written book, fantastically detailed, and it weaves together seemingly disparate episodes in American history so that you can see they were not random, they were not accidental, and they were not unconnected. And it will clearly help you understand what we're facing today. So the book again is The President Makers: How Billionaires Control U.S. and Foreign Policy. It looks like it's not in print, but you can get used copies, and you can also go to the organization that the author is a key part of, called the Freedom First, not the Freedom, but online it's freedomfirstsociety.org. And I really admire not only the research that they're doing, but that you'll see when you go to the site, they have action steps, and the action steps are quite reasonable and quite intelligent and quite purposeful. And that's what we need a lot of these days, is action. So I would definitely, if you can, get this book. You can certainly go to the website, read about them. I'm sure that because they are so effective in describing the ills of our system, that you'll find all kinds of slander about them. I haven't bothered to look into it. I just read the book. Does the book make sense? Yes. I don't need to read the slander, but I'm sure there's a whole cottage industry of people out there slandering this group. But anyway, that's Brass Check. The book again, The President Makers: How Billionaires Control U.S. and Foreign Policy. And it is a much more profound book than even that title can hint at.